Hey everyone, this is Daniel, and in today's video we're going to talk about working with links in Power Automate approvals. Now approvals is such a powerful action and it has the built-in capability to add attachments and links. But what I'm going to show you is how you can add multiple links and even help you troubleshoot a situation that you might just run into. But first, here's my intro video. So one thing I do want to mention is that this video is almost like a continuation of the one I did before. In fact, here's the video and I've put the link down in the description below. If you're not familiar with the approvals, then go take a look at this video first because it has the whole process of the different types of approvals and how to go ahead and use them, and even mention some of the things I'm going to talk about now a little bit over there. All right, so just thought I'll call that out first. Okay, so for the sake of this example, I have a scenario, like I always do. I've built something and I want to use that as an example. So what I've done, first of all, is I've used SharePoint as my back-end data source, and I've built a Power App on top of it. And this app is a very simple, put in a project for a request, it goes through an approval process, and then it updates it. App is simple, the list is simple, but I want to focus on the Power Automate flow over here. Thought I'd let me show you what this app is all about. So you can actually see that the app's really simple. It just has a home screen. The home screen basically has a gallery. You click on the plus, it goes to another screen, and that's where you see the form that you're going to submit the request or the project request. On the back end, I have a SharePoint list. This is my SharePoint Online. And over here, I've just got very simple columns. In fact, if you go to the list settings, you will see that I've got pretty much simple things. Title out of the box over here. Project status, again, it's a choice type column. And I've just put 3 choices over here: new, in progress, completed. And then I've also gone ahead and added a place to go and put the little description, and if any, what is the approval status and approval comment. Again, it's a very simple list, and this is not the whole, the center of attention over here, but it's going to be in just a minute if you want to troubleshoot something, but it's going to be the flow. What I'm going to do is build a flow from scratch, and in the process you will actually see some of the limitations I run into in the existing features, and then why I'm going to go ahead and use the details in the flow. So we're going to come in and I'm going to go ahead and start a automated cloud flow, and my automated cloud flow is going to be when an item is created, when a SharePoint item is created. I'll click on create, and the first thing I'm going to say is how to add links in approval. Let's start this with live demo. And then let me go grab that SharePoint list over here, the site and the list. My site was a test site. The list I came up with was a list name with spaces. And I'll go ahead and get, it's going to be an approval process. So I'm also going to go ahead and probably get my manager, because whoever submits the approval, we need to go and get the approval from the manager. So I get the get manager. Get manager is going to reference the ID of the user or the email ID. So from the create item, I'm going to go and get created by email. And then I'm going to also allow some attachments, and I want to put those links to those attachments in the approval process. So I'll come to the new step over here, and I'll go into the SharePoint, and in the SharePoint, there is the get attachments. So that's what I want to get. So come over here, and I want to get the attachments. Come on, there you go, get attachments. And for the get attachments, I have to go ahead and put in again the site name or the site address. The site was all the way to the bottom. Go ahead and get the list. The list is the same one that I put up over there. And then I go and get the ID. So the ID is going to be of the when an item is created. So we are moving along. Next, I am going to now go and put this information into my start and approval process. So let's go and actually drop that approval over here. Again, like I've said, approval is a really, really powerful action that is available, and it's got some great functionality. I don't want to spend too much time talking about that. Go take a look at my other video. So I'll do a approve reject first to respond, and when I do that, it goes ahead and gives me all these other fields to fill out. I actually have some of the fields ready, so I'll come and type that in. The title here is going to be the same as my SharePoint title when an item is created. Assigned to is going to be my manager, so I need to go and get the manager's mail. It doesn't call as email, it's called as mail over here. Details, I can go and put in a little bit of information in the details. So here's what I'm going to do, just to make sure I don't have any typos and spend too much time talking. I'll just do some copy and paste. So first I'm going to say hello, and the hello is going to be the manager's name. So I'll come over here and I'll get the, first I'm going to make sure I click over there and I get the display name. I say a request submitted by, and there is when I'm going to get the created by display name. And here's the information. So information, then I'll go and get title, got the title, got the description, and I think we are good. Now here is where I want to go ahead and add the attachments link. So let's go and do that first, right? Because there's going to be a few interesting things we're going to run into, but let me at least do that. So the link is the same as the absolute URI. That's why I have to go and get the attachments. This is the way you want to go and get the attachments from a SharePoint link or a SharePoint list to get that attachment over here. And that's why you specifically use this action, which is get attachments. And again, this is not new, so some of you may already be aware of this. That's why I haven't spent too much time on that. All right, so the link area over here, I'm going to use for the get for the item link is going to be the absolute URI, and it automatically went ahead and did this apply to each. You didn't do anything wrong. This is not misbehaving. This is by design. What it is doing is it's saying that, you know what, in the SharePoint list, you can have the option to add multiple attachments. And I don't know if there is multiple attachments added over here. So I'm going to go and make sure that this is already in the apply to each. Now, what some of you may be concerned is that what if I have multiple attachments and for each and every attachment is going to kick off a separate approval process? Well, that can be a bit of a problem. And you are right, that will do that. And I'll deal with that in a minute. Right now, I'm going to make sure that in the form, I only allow one attachment, and one will cross this bridge once we get there in a few minutes. So I come down to the link description, and the link description is going to be the display name. So I'll ignore the approval and all the other conditions. Let's just go ahead and run this and actually save it. So it's doing this over here. I think we've got that going. Let's go ahead and now fill out this form. Okay, so I come now, I go through the approval process, and I'm going to just call this as project 1. I'll put the project. Well, you know what? I need to make sure one more thing. Come in now, and I go to our. This is basically just a form. In the form for the attachments, I'm going to click over there. And the max attachment for now, I'm going to put that as 1, just for the sake of this initial first example that we're going through. So I put project number 1 is awesome. And attachments, I'll go and grab an attachment. Let's see, I got some examples over here. Test PDF document is good. And I'll go ahead and submit it. It's going through, it's submitting it. The flow is going to go kick off. In fact, when we come to the SharePoint list over here, if I go and refresh it, you will see that the list showed up. I mean, the list item showed up. And now the flow is going to kick off any second now. Yep, it is running. And now if I go take a look at it, it's probably gone through and waiting in the approval process over here. Yep, just like that, it went through the approval process. Again, it's only one attachment. So now any second I should get some notifications. In fact, you've already heard that notification as well. I'm going to log in over here as my manager. My manager is Rosanna, my wife. So I come in and Rosanna is getting this approval that, hey, there's a approval that is waiting, and it is waiting for me. So here it actually went through and gave me this approval. It's actually a link, and it's gone through, coming through pretty well. If I go and click on it, the link over here works. And remember, I only put in one link. That's why it is, showing me that one link, and it worked just fine without any problems over here. Okay, so in fact, I can just go and say approve. That flow will end, and we're all done. It also shows up on Rosanna's email. So if I go over here, it shows, well, I just finished it on the team side. That's why it finished it over here, but I actually sent an email. Anyway, you got that. It went through just fine. Now let's go ahead and say I want to add multiple attachments. Well, how is that going to work, and where is that going to break? Well, we already found out there's one place which can cause a problem. Let's go back to that area over here. In the workflow area, now if I want to add multiple attachments, this approval process is going to run multiple times. And that is going to cause a problem because we have only one overall entry for the project. There's only one project. But then why I should have multiple approvals, one for each attachment. So you and I already know what's going to happen. We're going to have some variables, and in that variables we're going to attach those links, and in those links we're going to have to put them in the one single approval process. So let's actually go and try to figure that out. So I got to now modify this approval, this flow. So what I'll do is, next thing I want to come is now start adding some variables. Now I usually put my variables usually right after the initial trigger. So I'll come to variable, and I'm going to go ahead and now initialize two variables. So my two variables are going to be very simple. The first one, I'm going to call that as var attachment URL, and that will be a string type. I also like to go ahead and rename it so I actually know what it is. So I'm going to call that as attachment or attachments plural URL. Come back here and make sure I got that incorrect. And so that's the URL. I got to go ahead and add another one, which is going to be again variable. And in the variable, I'm going to initialize it. And in the initialize, I'm going to call that as var attachment name. Also make that as string. Rename this attachments name. Okay, so we've gone ahead and taken care of that. Now in the I'm going to go ahead and now apply the data to these variables. I've initialized it. I need to start setting some data over here. So in the next step, I can actually do it right after here. I got to do it after the attachments because I've gotten the attachments. Now I need to start setting the value. I've initialized it. Now I need to set the value in these variables. So I come back now to the variable, and I'll start from the first one, which is set variable. And in the set variable, I'll start with the attachment name. Now we already know, we've already done something similar because we added that directly to the approvals. So I'm going to say that a set attachments name. But here, I go ahead and get the data from this step. So that step, now you just come back over here. The name was the same as display name, and it automatically went and added into the apply to each, which is great because that's what we wanted to do, right? Because we're going to work with multiple attachments. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the exact same for the URI as well, the actual link. So I'm going to go for variables, come to the variables, select that, set that value, and just to make sure, yep, that was the display name. So here I'm going to go ahead and get the data URI, I mean the absolute URI. And then let me just name this as well for my own peace of mind. And I'll call this as attachments URL. So now I've got all the, if there are multiple attachments added, I've gone ahead and added them over here in a multiple way because it's going into and apply to each. So what I need to do now is I need to remove this one out of this apply to each. And I can't, because I can't just go ahead and take this and I can drag it out. It lets me, but then it says it's got, dependencies in each of them. So I can't do that, which means the best way to actually do is now come back over here and start that approval process altogether. So I come back now there, approval processes. I'm going to do a start another wait, and I'm going to replicate the exact same one that I had before, and then I'll actually delete the other one. So what I'll do is I'll come here down, I'll expand the one below it, and I'll just replicate the process. So this one is going to be now title, came back right there. Assigned to is going to be the mail of my manager, which is the same thing as emails. And in the description, let me go and now grab my text again from the description. And in the description, again, same thing here. We'll come into and type in the display name. That's going to be the display name of the manager. Submitted by, in the body, in the details, we are going to get the created by display name. And then all the information is same. Again, remember, this is the exact same that we did below, but I just can't do a copy and paste because it's got dependencies. These items you're filling over here are based on the apply to each. We don't want to use the apply to each, so I'm taking that out. And so here I'll do for the links for that, I'm going to actually leave that for now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try and add the links over here. So the link, actual link is going to be the URL, and the description is going to be the name. And I can go and get rid of this one now, because we don't need that. And it did let me save it. It didn't come up with any warning saying that there's any dependencies. So now I should be able to technically have multiple attachments coming in over here, because I've added all the attachments to a list over here. Basically, it's coming into this list section over here, and it should kind of work, but it's we'll see. So what I want to do now is go back to my app, and in my app, I'm going to go ahead and now modify this little guy. And I'm going to say multiple attachments. Let's just put it to 2, right? So I'll go ahead and even save that. Saving to Power Apps. So let me just go ahead and save that. We'll take care of that. Cool. So let me now go and do a test. So let me just say, okay, project 2, project 2 is cloudy with 2 attachments. And let me just add 2 attachments. So I'll put a test doc I have, and I'll also have a test PDF, the same one that I did before. So save it, goes through, it's going ahead and saving it, show it up over here in the SharePoint list. If I go and refresh it, it shows up over here. In fact, if I just click on it, you will see that there is 2 attachments, the links over here showing up. So that data came in through well. But let's go and see now how the flow is going to behave. So, okay, so it's running, and in the running process, I got a ding, which is good, which means it's come through the approval. No errors, it went and picked up everything. Looks like it's all going through. The very fact that in the apply to each there are 2 sections means that it's working over there. That is great. Now what I can do is I can actually go and take a look at it. So let me come in here, and I've gone ahead and seen that approval came through, but it always went ahead and only picked up the last one that I did. Now I know what some of you are thinking. So Daniel, you didn't use the append functionality over there. You only went ahead and added as a set. So we can go and test that append as well, and you will actually see that it's going to cause a little bit of mess. But that's a good point. If you've thought about it, that's great, because you're kind of, your wheels are turning, and you're also questioning, hey, did Daniel do something? Is that accurate? So that's good. Let's go and actually even test that. So I'll complete that. And again, this is a real world scenario where you are going to face this problem, where initially it is great. You just added 1 attachment and everything was good, but more than likely you're going to have the need to add multiple attachments. And in that multiple attachments, you will be able to have that functionality. So I'm not going to emphasize that over here. What I'm talking about is changing this. So instead of adding the set one, what you do is you go ahead and delete that. And I'll delete this one over here as well. And you are going to go ahead and use in the variables, you are going to click on the variable, and you're going to use the option for append to string variable. And that also works. In the append to string variables, you're going to actually constantly go ahead and add more variables one by one. But I'll tell you what, this is not going to work when you add it specifically to the links area over here. And I'm talking about adding it to this link item and link description. They're just going to show up as URLs. So I'm going to show you a different way, and that is by not using these URLs over here. It is by actually using the detail section. Now I want to point out a little bit about the detail section, because in the detail section, it uses a functionality called as markdown, and that markdown basically has a very specific format that you need to follow. And I've provided this link in the description below, so go take a look at that. But the one that I specifically am going to follow is the one over here, and that is how to go ahead and get these links. So in this link, I've got to follow this very specific format for the markdown process in the approvals detail section. That was a mouthful. But here it is. The text goes inside the square brackets, and the link goes inside the curve brackets. All right, so kind of just keep that in mind, and you will see that example over here, that this is simple text, and then there's also a URL. So that's a great example. Now we're going to go ahead and replicate this, and we'll try to make this work for the other one as well. So let's go back in now, and over here I am going to work on a different type of variable. So let me show you what that variable is. I'm actually going to come in and now initialize a different variable. I'll come back over here, and I'm just going to call that as the attachments link. So I'll come back to variables. I'll initialize a variable. And this initialized variable, I'm going to call that as var. What did I call this one? Yep, I call that as var attachments links. So I'm just going to create that as a string as well. Go ahead and rename that. And I'll call this as the attachments links. Perfect. And here we go. Come back now to inside the apply to each. And inside the apply to each, now we're going to use that method which was explained over here, this markdown link method that has been explained. So coming in, going to variables, my variable, I'm going to now set that variable. And in fact, I'm not going to set it. I'm going to go ahead and now use append because that's what I want to use over here. And that way you can actually see both the ways that it is working. So I'm going to go back to the variables, go to the variables here. I'm going to go ahead and now do the append to a string variable. And I'll go ahead and grab my variable links. And the first thing I'm going to do is follow that format. So the first format, again to recap, it is that you need to put the text and then the link. So that's what I'm going to follow over here. I'm going to put that in there. And I'm going to now say, putting in the text piece, which is the, where was it? Yep, actually it was right here. Because I'm getting for each and every one of them. So the first one I'm going to get is the text. That's the display. Close the bracket. No spaces. Open up the curly bracket or the curve bracket. And I put the absolute URI. Close it. Just make sure that my format is correct. Yep, it was square brackets, curve brackets. Go ahead and save it. Actually, and then I'm going to now take it off from here. And I'm going to add just another text. And another text I'm going to say, here are your links, and below I'll just add my attachments link, the variable there. Save it. We'll do a quick test. So go back to my app. I'll add my project number 3. Project 3 includes a lot of work. Again, go ahead and add 2 attachments. So I'll get that test doc. I'll go ahead and grab a PDF file again. You know what, we'll just go and get a Excel file for now. Save it. No errors on the app part because the app's pretty simple and straightforward. Coming back over here. Yep, went through just fine. Just to make sure, I click on it. Yep, I see the 2 attachments have come through, which is great. It's in the list. Now let's go and pay attention to the flow. Okay, it's running. Click on it. See at which action it has stopped. So it went through pretty smoothly right up till here. Went ahead and grabbed all of the links I wanted. Looks like it did some stuff, which is great. It put it inside the brackets. It went ahead and did that for twice because I had 2 links. And just to make sure, yep, it got both of them. So the append section is working and it's coming in over here. And I can't really see anything. So let's go and take a look at it from the approval standpoint. We'll look at it from the email section over here. So I look at the email and whoa, what just happened over here? Well, let's look at the positive side. Okay, let's be a little positive over here. The positive thing is I'm seeing both the links coming in, which is great because the appending is working. Why is this happening now? Why am I not able to see the links? I'm just getting full text name, which is the file name is a text, and then I'm getting this full URL over here. So like I'm almost there, but something's not wrong. Something's not right. And let me just go check on the approval side also. Maybe it was an email design function, whatever. But let's go check on the approval. So, oh, approval is, it's pretty close. I mean, I'm getting this entire link, but you know what? It gave me a hint. Something is wrong in my URL. And check this out. Everything was good, but there were spaces, and that space is what threw me off. So are your wheels turning? Because mine are, and I now realize what caused this problem, and I'll show you. So let's go check out that SharePoint list we have. All right. So now do you know why I call this list that name? It's list name with spaces. So check this out. There is, if you go on the top over here, I call that as when I was typing this in, I literally typed it in as list space name space with space spaces, and you can see that in the URL. Anytime you see a %20, that means that there was something. When I was typing this in, I went ahead and added that space over there. So I betcha. If I go in, we'll see right here in the web address, you can see the way it was actually written up. There was a list over here. I mean, there was the spaces over there. But you know what? Did I do the same thing with these column names as well? I go into the project status and I go up over there. I say, oh boy, I did. So it was project underscore x0020 underscore status, which means that when I write this in, this is how it came up to as the column name. So this is one of the biggest problems that I was facing when I was troubleshooting this approval process, because I faced an exact same issue over here. And what happened was, after I went ahead and even got it working, because I took it off from the attachments, like the details section over here. What I mean is, in the approvals section as well, I took it off from the links and I added in the details, and I started getting these errors. And that means the flow was just fine. It was the SharePoint list that had the problem. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and now create a very simple list. I'll replicate this process over here. And I'll also go ahead and now I'll just create the title, project status, and description. We'll just replace the list in the form, in the flow, come back and we'll do a quick test. So let me now go and add that list really fast. I'll go to, not the list settings, I want to go back out to adding a list. Now for the project status, you can see that when you type that in, I actually put the column name as one word, lowercase, and that's how I've always done for all my forms as well. You can leave the default as new over here, but I'm going to click on OK, and then I come back to the exact same column name. And then in my column name, I go project status, and I change the names. Now I make it look a little bit nice. Now, I just want to call that out that this is not new. I mean, I have been doing this 10, 15 years ago. Back in the InfoPath days is when I've been doing this. This is a very good process to create these proper column names over here. Right down to the list name as well. This is how I've always done that. Okay, so kind of keep that in mind. So for the multiple lines, it'll be pretty simple and straightforward. And then I come back in again and I go to description. Change that. And then finally, I'll change the list name as well. What I should have also done is made these all lowercase, because I put some caps over there, capitals. We should have done that all those lowercase. But I'm good for now. So what I'll do is let's go ahead and now change our app a little bit. So in the app now, I'm going to come in and I'm going to connect that to our new list. Without any spaces. Changed over here. That's fine. Don't want the project status, so I'll go and remove that. So I'll kind of keep it as is. And then finally in my submit button, I'll change that to, it's still the form one. So let me, I think we're good on the app side. Now let's go and manipulate our flow. Now the flow is going to break in a few places, but that's fine because you will see how that breaks as well. So now let's go into our flow, and in my flow, I'm going to now change the list name. So the list name I'm going to be without any spaces. And we're going to start seeing some errors come up, which is fine. All of this is good. All of this is good. Get attachments. The site itself is good. Got to change the list. This is all good. Apply. Now here, I need to change the names. We'll keep this as is because I may have to come back and change some of the names. Title is good. Created by. Description. What I personally do is I'm going to go ahead and delete them and add them back again. That way I've made sure I'm not getting any errors whatsoever. So now I'll go and put this one, the absolute, it's going to be the display name, and then the URL will be the absolute URI. The get manager information should be good. Title, I'm going to go and change that. So I'll go and get the title, change the title, created by, go ahead and get a new created by, submitted by. And that submitted by is created by display name. Let me change this title. Got the title there, description. And let's do a test. we may get an error, which is great. We'll be able to go ahead and come back over here. But the big manipulation was changing that list over there. So let's go back in. Yeah, that's fine. I can go ahead and publish that. And we go back in and add new set of projects. So new project 1 says this is a new project 1. And right from the beginning, I'll go and add 2 attachments. Let me just check the edit form. Since we added a new form, what was the default? Default was 6. All right, we'll leave it at 6. I'll just add 2, maybe 3. So let's keep that. Start with 2 for now. And get the PDF file, save it. It's going through. Didn't get any errors. That's good, which means the app updated perfectly. Come in over here. Hey, it went ahead and updated to the new list without any spaces. But let's go and take a look at the flow. Okay, so the 9-minute one was the one we did before. We just went ahead and made a change. So I got to watch for this new one that's coming in. Okay, 0 seconds. So a new one came through. Let's see if it fails in any way. It hasn't failed anything so far, which is good. I heard a ding, which means it went through the approval process. Let's go take a look at that. So I come in now and I'm gonna go ahead and close this one because a new one came through. Hey, that's not bad because I got that link now. In fact, if you look closely, it is test.document.doc and test PDF file doc. So it actually worked. The links came through now. We didn't get that big gibberish text over there. We got the links. Now the link does look a little messy, so we can fix that, and I'll show you a way to fix it. In fact, it also looks a little messy even on the email side, and I'll show you a quick way to fix it. See over here, just side by side without any space. In the approval side, what it does is it at least shows you side by side in the approvals in Teams. But in the approvals over here, we can actually click that, clean that. So let me kind of end by showing you how to go ahead and clean that. So that's a pretty simple way to fix it. So I come back in and I'll edit this one here. And in the applied, actually it's in the applied to each over there. I first come in, go to the beginning. See, that's why I was at the back. I hit the home button and hit enter. Back again. So let it go 1 space below first, okay? That's an easy way to fix that. And then here, you just make sure that you give it a little bit more room. But this is just as a, nice to, but this is where you make that change, because that is how it will show up in the approvals in Teams. It'll actually put a little space. But in the emails and Outlook, it actually puts 1 below. This you gotta come over here to that variable, and then you add that space. So now I go ahead and click on save. And when I go and make a change, you will actually go and add a new entry. You will see that happen. So let's go and put project 1. New project 2. Project 2. This is the best project to work on ever. And you know what? Let's go crazy and we'll add 3 attachments now. So I'm going to add a test document, which is a Word doc. Let's go and add an Excel doc. Let's go do that. Let's go and add that final PDF one that I was always working on. Do that, save, go through, saving it nicely, no errors over here. I see that new project, go to the SharePoint list, just quickly refresh. That's the new one that came through. Now let's go to our report. So this was an old one even before we made the change to the list. This is the one that we just saw, which the links were side by side. The next one that comes through, it should look a lot cleaner. All right, this is the one, 4 seconds, coming in over here. Going through, no errors whatsoever. In the attachments, we can see that that's the space we did over here. That's nice. Okay, but I heard the ding. Let's go take a look what happened. First thing is look over here. Aha. Oh, and all 3 of them came through. See? Now all 3 of them came through over here as links directly. Let's go take a look to see how it shows up on the approvals. In Teams. Okay, so it's not bad. I mean, you see that now at least you see them as 3 very distinct ones. There's different ones over there. Before they just looked like one sentence. So we covered a lot in this video, and hopefully this was helpful because I went through and showed you how you can go ahead and now add links directly in the approvals detail you got to make sure you use that syntax, which is the name of the file. Just the file name should be in the square brackets, but the link should be in the curve brackets. But it's so much better option because now I could add multiple links over there, and it worked really well. And I even showed you an issue that I ran into literally and how I was able to troubleshoot that, because it was not on the flow side, it was not on Power App side, it was on the data source side, and I walked you through how to fix that. So hopefully this was helpful, and as always, keep power automating.